All right, welcome into the show. I'm your host, Chris. You can find me on Twitter at CFP Talk 07. You can also follow our show page at CFP underscore SZN. Got an awesome show tonight. Going to have Emory Hunt join us from CBS Sports. We're going to talk NFL draft, all the guys that we follow in college, and talk about them getting drafted in the NFL. Let's bring Emory on. Hey, Emory, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Appreciate you bringing me on the show.
Yes, sir. Before we get into the questions, I always like to ask, like, how did you? So you played football and you went to college. It was University of Louisiana, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So when you got out of football, how did you get into the media space? Like, what made you want to do that?
Well, my major in college was mass communications, right?
Mm,
So I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. I knew I didn't want to do local news or anything like that. I wanted to do sports, but in 2003, I didn't know how to start from there to get to where I wanted to go. So I just, like most people, when they're done, I went back to my hometown in New Orleans and coached high school ball at my old high school, and then jumped into corporate America, was a recruiter. Then Katrina hit. I moved up this way to New York City, and still doing the recruiting thing across 3 states. And next thing you know, I'm like, man, I'm getting this football itch again. I want to get back in it, and apply for some head coaching jobs in the Jersey area. Just was like, kind of fell through. Didn't get the opportunity or whatnot. So I was like, I still want to talk ball, and so I started a website, footballgameplan.com, in
yeah.
'07, and that's how we got rolling. Then in '09, I realized, like, I saw the trend turn. I was like, people will rather watch more than read. And my background was in communication. So I got the equipment, started my own YouTube channel back in '09 when nobody was doing it. Then in 11, I added podcasts when nobody was doing that, and kind of got out early before everyone else on both YouTube and podcasting. And I kind of got my name out there. And next thing you know, I was getting opportunities to call football games on. I was did Georgetown. I was doing some games in the, like, East Stroudsburg and some of these Division II colleges. And then next thing you know, here I am at CBS 2020. So it was dope to see. And a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people talk to me and they'll say they'll know me from CBS, and some people know
Mm-hmm.
me from YouTube, because again, I was YouTube famous before I was CBS famous. And so that's how I kind of got started. Just started a website and just kind of continue to stay in that boat and built every year.
Yeah, I remember you from YouTube. I think it was YouTube, and I remember the site you talked about. You started. That's how I found you back on Twitter a long time ago. And then I remember when you got hired at CBS, which I thought that was awesome because I follow in your work. It's pretty cool to like follow people and see them go from starting their own thing and then to get hired by somebody like CBS is pretty cool. But
It shows people that it can happen. Because I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I was just talking about this with my homeboy yesterday who works at ESPN, Teron Davenport, and
Mhm.
we're at the baseball game. We was just talking about, like, man, it's just so surreal to when we got that call, like, and got the offer. It was like, yeah, this is CBS. You're like, this can't be real. And for him, it was ESPN. It was like, nah, this can't be real. And because you don't ever believe that it can happen, but because you stayed consistent in what you were doing, it ended up working out for you in the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're right, like getting out early on the YouTube thing. Finding out real quick. There's a lot of people that do this. It's very hard. But before we get into all the other, I'm gonna be selfish and ask a question. How pissed is Jerry Jones gonna make me as a Cowboy fan with the 12th pick?
Probably not, man, because at the end of the
You
day,
don't think
like,
so?
this is going. It all depends on how the top 11 go. Because the
Yeah.
Cowboys could be sitting pretty in a situation where they can get a very good player that can help them this year. One thing I'll say about Jerry Jones,
Hmm.
he barely whiffs in the draft. Like, obviously
Yeah.
there are some whiffs, but for the most part, the Cowboys are a talented team. Now, when they play and the consistency, start to finish, may not be there, but it's never because they lack talent. So
Hmm.
Jerry Jones and the scouting department, they'll find you and they'll acquire your talents. Now, can they get the right kind of guys to piece together
Hmm.
to formulate a great team is a different story. But acquiring talent, Jerry Jones, especially in the first round. Jones tends to knock those out the park.
You're right. He does. I guess I'm just I've been so angry with the free agency and the whole buy-in and then they didn't really go out and do nothing. So I guess I'm just letting it hang over to the draft. But all right. So I know the most popular thing to discuss is quarterbacks. I before we get to Cam Ward, I noticed on your Twitter you've been doing a lot of defending for Shador, and I'm a big fan of Shador Sanders. He's been kind of getting a lot of hate, which has kind of been normal for him throughout his whole college career. I love him. I've always liked Shador. I've also been a big Dion fan, as you know. I'm a Cowboys fan, so Dion's my guy. Why do you think people are just so down on him? And do you buy the talk out there on him going down or the stocks falling?
I don't. I don't buy that because Cleveland is sitting right there at number 2 with nobody on the roster that they can say is better than Shador right now. Right? They need a quarterback, so I would be hard pressed to see him fall past 2. But if he does, I would be hard pressed to see him fall past 3. But I just think that a lot of it is due to disdain for Prime, Coach Prime. And it's weird because when you look at everything that Shador does well, that's what everybody's always talked about. They want a quarterback to have, right?
Yeah,
Be able to play in the pocket, the accuracy, the consistency, the timing, the touch, working all 3 levels of the field, toughness in the pocket, being able to step up and take a hit. All of those things he does really well. And I just find it comical. And I used to get
yeah,
so vehemently upset about these things. But at the end of the day, when you are on the right side of history and it plays out in the end, now everybody got it. It's fun to watch people try to, well, it's because this offensive coordinator fixed them or this thing worked or he did this because they try to justify why they were just wrong in the beginning when he's been playing the same way the whole time.
I've been really impressed the past year or the last 2 years, like how bad his offensive line was and just how he just stood in the pocket and does things. I'm a big fan of him. I hope he kills it in the NFL. I hate the hate that he gets, like you said, because of his dad. And I don't even know why Dion gets a lot of hate. I think he's great too. I love Dion. he's
Everybody
he's
loved
awesome.
Deion Sanders as a kid and as a teen, and they just I guess people love confidence, but they love it on their terms.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, if someone's super confident and they're backing it up, you can't really say anything. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because they're doing it. But if somebody's confident, they don't have the skins on the wall to show for it, then it's like, all right, bro, tone it down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's not Dion. That's not Prime. I mean, that's not Shador.
yep.
Like, and Shador is not always out there. Like,
No,
he's a quiet dude. Like what you see
Mhm.
on the field is what people kind of build and
Yeah.
perceive. But to me, it just screams of other people's um insecurities. That's all.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because there's so many. I root for Georgia. It's a team I grew up rooting my whole life. And Kirby Smart comes from that Nick Saban kind of tree where all those coaches are like robots.
Mhm.
And I'm the guy that I like the coaches like Lane Kiffin, Deion Sanders. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, right? Like I like
Right.
the crap talking and the all the fun stuff that comes with it. And that's why I'm kind of like really drawn to Dion. I think it brings fun to the game. So I wish we would see more of it
Right.
rather than all these robot coaches. But so the other quarterback, Cam Ward, the question I wanted to ask with him, like, how do you think he lines up with the past quarterbacks of the drafts? Like, I keep hearing how this year's class is really down, on the quarterbacks and all that. But what is your feeling on that and how he stacks up with the past quarterbacks?
Ward would have won the top 5 last year.
I
I know
agree.
folks
Yeah.
love to lie and say, "Oh, they wouldn't have done that." Like, because remember, Ward had accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl last year, and then
Mhm.
decided to go back to school. So had he gone down to the Senior Bowl, who would have did what Cam Ward does, and they would have talked about him how he's killing it at the Senior Bowl, then they would have elevated his stock, just like we saw Bo Nix go in the first round because of what he did at the Senior Bowl and whatnot. And Ward was playing really well at both Incarnate Word and Washington State, and now Miami. Like Ward is legitimately a stud, and he's been that way since he stepped foot on campus at all 3 stops. And so, by far, he would have been a top 5 pick in my opinion, because he has top 5 talent. He has a top 5, toughness that you want, the same thing that you like about Shador, you like about Cam Ward.
Hmm.
That's why I have no when people are trying to make this a Cam versus Shador
Yeah,
thing, but you could like both guys at the same time. Like they are both elite talents at that position, and Ward to me is someone that's going to raise the floor whatever team he gets drafted by.
yeah. I'm a big fan of his too. He's some of the throws he makes is just ridiculous.
Hmm.
So on this show, my co-host, he's not with us tonight, but he's a big Cam and store guy. But one guy that he's been really high on that I'm starting to see a lot of people getting high on is Jackson Dart. What is your overall take on him? He wanted me to ask you this, but do you think he could be like a Brock Purdy surprise? Like, when Brock Purdy was drafted, nobody thought he would be what he is today. Do you see that, or are you not buying the hype that's been going around with him here lately?
I'm not particularly buying the hype, and the reason, and it's unfair to Jackson Dart because I mean, he didn't ask for all this.
Yeah.
People are now over the top elevating him up, and they'll put him in a situation that will be unfair to him. Because if you just look at him in a vacuum, okay, good athlete, does some nice things, but has a lot to work on, especially coming out of Lane Kiffin's system. You kind of want to see him slowly be brought along. Otherwise, you can have yourself a bad spot, like you saw with Matt Corral coming out the same offense, put up a lot of yards, but because of the NFL game moves so fast and things happen quickly, and you got to make quick decisions, every game is going to look like the first drive of the Georgia game for Jackson Dart. And you to avoid that, you want to, have someone be able to get acclimated to what he's going to see. So the
Mhm.
talk of if you was talking about Dart in round 3, not
Yeah.
a problem. You know what I'm saying? That's a QB2 that can be your backup or your reserve. Get groomed and spot start. Which is perfectly fine because we've seen since COVID, you're going to need at least a solid backup quarterback that can come in and start for at least 2 to 3 games because dude's been getting hurt now. So Dart would be that for me, and I just feel like again the media side of things and the actual reality of what could happen side of things are two different components. So but we as in the media have to that's why I try to do the best job I can of staying even kill and setting proper expectations.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to say this guy should be here and and lead the charge on some misinformation, just say what you believe based off tape and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I agree. That he's always been a big fan of Jackson Dart, but that was great stuff there. Is there before we go on another stuff in the draft? Is there a quarterback other than those three that you're higher on than everybody else, or is it just pretty much Shador and Cam?
Well, Shador and Cam are my two only first round
Yeah,
type quarterbacks, but I could be sold on a Jalen Milrow. I like
yeah,
the components that he has, the mental makeup. As academic Heisman guy, he showed he got better from the first time we saw him, where it looked ugly, to 2023, where it was like, wow, they can't win without him. And he beat Carson Beck, outplayed him in a championship game. Had that throw against Auburn to the back corner of the end zone to Isaiah Bond on 4th and forever, and then was up and down this past season. And so you could work with a guy like that. But I'm high on Brady Cook, man. I think Brady Cook got the
yeah,
same level of toughness that we talked about with Cam, Shador, and Milrow. Cook played a lot of football, was banged up this year, but we saw him get carted off against Auburn, come right back in and help lead them to win. We saw him drive down the field against South Carolina, what looked to be the game-winning touchdown to Luther Burton. And so I like that component. Then he goes to the combine. I thought he did great. He tested really well athletically, had the best throwing session of the combine, in my opinion. He's garnering a lot of attention, in my opinion, should be garnering a lot of attention based off what he has done. And when you look at his body of work, it reminds me a lot of what Andy Dalton was doing at TCU when they went on that little run, got to the Rose Bowl, played Wisconsin, like tough, gritty player that you can't count out. I see a lot of that in Brady Cook.
that's awesome. That's very interesting. On Brady Cook. Well, since you said Brady Cook, I'll move to wide receivers real quick. I've noticed Luther Burden has kind of dropped a lot. What do you think's contributing to that, and do you believe in those things that he's going to drop?
I'll just stick to the tape. Like the tape
Yeah,
tells me he should go in the first round. And what I love about Burton is the fact that he could play inside or outside. He is someone that can take a short pass a long way. He's making contested catches. He knows how to win one-on-one. He could win above the rim. And like I just brought up that South Carolina game, he is someone that has a great sense of timing too. So he is able to make the big play when the big play is needed. And I feel like that's the type of guy you want to gamble on. Now, what is happening around him, I don't know.
Right.
I stay in my lane, and that's the film, and that's why I say I would take him if I had a team.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of Cowboys fans want to take him or Tet at Arizona. How do you feel about him? I've seen some fans and media talk about his 40 time and all that. Do you put a lot of emphasis on the 40 time stuff with wide receivers?
Nah, because at the end of the day, your play speed better match whatever you time.
Mhm.
So that's why when people saw Matthew Golden 4.2, it was like, well, he didn't really play 4.2. Bond looks like he's 4.2. But Golden looked like he was like a solid 4.5 guy, which is fine. But you always want to look at somebody's play speed. And Tet, to me, Tyrell McMillan does a great job of being a catch and run threat. We've seen him like catch an intermediate route and then break camp and get outside and outrun someone to the end zone. So as long as you're playing fast, that's all I care about, because the play speed is what's most important.
Yeah. So out of those wide receivers, who would you say is your favorite? Like, who would be your first wide receiver off the board if you were a GM picking?
Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Oh
Like
well. Yeah. I should have excluded him.
that's
Yeah, he's the obvious.
yeah, like Travis Hunter. But outside of Travis Hunter, I would probably lean more toward somebody like Tet McMillan, because I love the fact that he has insane hands. Like
Yeah.
catching the ball is requisite number one for a receiver, and he has the best hands, I believe, in the draft class.
I'm glad you said that because I'm just a fan, so I can't watch film and tell you nothing. I was kind of down on him, but I'm a guy that really trusts the people that are the experts. So I've been seeing a lot of Cowboys mock drafts with him. I've kind of been buying the Matthew Golden hype. I don't know if you've been buying it, but I've been buying it after that 4.29.
Well, he's a good receiver. It's just that, I don't think he's as fast as the time
Yeah.
indicator, or plays as fast. But we'll see now, because the 4.2 is out there. So as a pro, we better see 4.2. But and like one thing in my scouting report I had for Matthew Golden, the first line was like, he is probably the most graceful receiver in terms of how he attacks the football, can contort his body. He is a fantastic wideout. We were just all shocked that he ran 4.2. But in terms of the receiver position, like, he plays that exceptionally well.
Yeah. So running back. You played running back. As a child, my favorite position was running back. I always, when I grew up, before I realized I couldn't play football, running back was the position I wanted to run. Emmitt Smith was my favorite player. Guys like him, Adrian Peterson. Yeah, I was just running back was my favorite position. And when I was growing up, which was the 90s, running back was king. It was like a position. So now you're seeing it kind of be devalued a lot. I would imagine you're like me and don't think the position should be as devalued as it is now. Where do you stand on picking a running back? Are you one of those that don't pick a running back in the first round?
If you see a running back that's worthy of first round talent, you take him, and your eyes will tell you this is a first round back, right? It is no different than any other position. And we saw it with Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. They told you, all right, I can't wait to take that. And this draft class to me reminds me a lot of the 2017 class. I had Fournette, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams, Joe Mixon, Samaje P. Ryan, Tariq Cohen was in that class, Aaron Jones. This class is a lot like that one. So if you see a guy that warrants the first round talent, your eyes won't tell you wrong. Take him. So don't wait, because at the end of the day, the first round is about taking one of the top 32 players out of 5,000. So if one of those 32 is a back, take him.
I agree. I'm so glad I figured you would say that because you're a running back yourself. So, so we obviously know about Genty. He's the best running back. I know you would say that too. Who would be your number two? Like, who would you say, or do you have a running back other than him that you have graded as a first rounder?
Yeah, Amari Hampton is someone that's has a pretty high grade for me as well, and not that far off from Genty, probably a half-point difference than Genty. And the reason being, he has all the attributes that you want: power, balance, speed, quickness, burst, and that's what you want. And I think he's faster than Genty, and so that's to me warrants him. He's kind of like the Joe Mixon of this class, where he's
Yeah.
like, wow, this dude can ball out. I'm surprised Mixon went when he. I know he had Mixon had some off the field stuff that they
Yeah.
were worried about, but on the field, Mixon had the size, the footwork, the agility, and that's what Hampton has. When you were grading Drake May, all you saw was 28. It's like, man, this dude is really doggone good. And so Hampton would be one like that. Travion Henderson is another one who has all of the agility, lateral quickness, a great pass protector, excellent receiver, home run hitting speed. So I would take him in the first round too. So when you talk about first round backs, you're talking about game breakers, guys that you have to game plan for. And those three guys, in my opinion, are those type of backs that you have to really sit down and say, we got to stop him before we stop anything else on offense.
That's awesome. That's actually great news as a Cowboys fan because every mock draft here lately has been Hampton to the Cowboys, and I've loved it. So, what do you think is the deepest position group in this draft?
I say all of them. Again, I agree. In my draft guide that just came out on Monday, over 1,200
Yeah.
prospects. So I grade all positions deep down
Yeah.
in the for
I don't
example,
mean
I
to cut
graded
you off. Can you tell people where to get that draft guide real quick?
footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide, the largest draft guide out there. You won't find more individual scouting reports. So I graded 128 running backs, 135. I'll tell you right now, I graded 144 running backs. So that's 144 scouting reports. So that's how deep it goes for me. And so all positions I feel like are deep because you got to keep digging if you don't find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's what scouts do. Because every draft, even in the mid rounds, when let's say it's week 6 or 7, and you're like, wow, my Cowboys got this guy that's balling. He was an undrafted free agent, or he was in the 6th round. Like that shows you how much talent is out there football wise, and that's
Yeah.
where, So that question for me is always unique because I know everybody else said, well, this position is deeper, but for me, I go deep at all positions. So I would say every
Yeah.
year is a deep year.
That's awesome. Do you Carter for Penn State? Is he your? I haven't got a chance to look at your guide. I do plan to though. But is he your best overall player in your opinion?
Hunter is the best overall
Yeah.
player in my opinion, but my number one edge rusher is Abdul Carter because again, his upside is tremendous. He only played what we saw this year for one season. He was an off-ball linebacker prior to that, and he already did what he did, showing you he is going to continue to get better. Now you just have to be healthy, and you worry about that. But for the most part, what he's done on the field, had that much success learning a new position. I think the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And we talked Travis Hunter. We've mentioned him a couple of times, but I do want to ask: you're a GM. Would you let him play both, or which side of the ball would you primarily? For me personally, wide receiver. But what do you think?
I'll let him play both because
Yeah.
he might not have to play. Uh, People I feel like are worried about the snaps,
Yeah.
but in college he's playing 100 plus snaps. You won't get to in the pros because you don't have to be your cornerback one or your wide receiver one like he was in college. He could be a wide receiver 3, play like 15, 20 snaps a game as your third receiver. And on defense, he's probably going to be your slot defender or maybe someone that you kind of put as a robber type, a safety type where you could just tell him go get the football. And he's probably playing. He could start on that side and still play 20 plays on offense and still come away with less plays than he played at Colorado. So I think you let him play both because that's what makes him Travis Hunter. He is so unique that he can play both. And if you're on defense, you're not throwing his way because you're literally throwing to a receiver. So he's going to help take away one side of the field because of his ball skills. And on offense, he doesn't need volume to be successful. You
Yeah.
put him in a slot, now he's better than the number 3 corner covering him, and that's a win all day for him. So you got to keep him on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Do you think it also could depend on who he gets drafted by? Like I've seen some places say maybe he could go to Cleveland, could go to the Giants. Do you think it just sometimes depend on where he goes? Like maybe Cleveland would probably use him more as a wide receiver, and Giants may put him at DB. You think that matters?
If you are a team drafting him, you're drafting him based on what you watched in college and you watched
Yeah,
him dominate both sides of the ball. You will be doing yourself and your team a disservice if you don't let him play on both sides of the ball. So that's the part of getting a Travis Hunter because you like the fact that he can do both.
yeah. Is Is there a player? I think I got like three more questions, but is there a player in this draft that nobody's really talking about in the media that you're super high on, like somebody that's not getting enough love or enough attention?
I would say running back Lamb Larrison out of UC Davis. I talked about
Ooh,
him during the season on CBSSports.com, and his game is very much like Christian McCaffrey. He's explosive. He can catch out of the backfield. This year, he almost had a thousand season where he had 1,000 yards rushing and finished with like 860 something yards receiving. So he would have had 1,000, which is insane. And
yeah,
this is someone about 5'11", 210 that can fly, can catch, can just do a lot of different things, and he's gonna be awesome. So I would say that's one guy that no one's really talking enough about.
yeah. I like so that actually probably leads into my second question. So you may not have another one, but, or maybe you do. But what I love about you and your work is you pay a lot of attention to the small schools. And not enough people in college football, unfortunately, is doing that right now, especially the greedy people that's running the sport on the little guys. So the what I like is like because don't you do I think you do FCS rankings
Yep.
on CBS? Yes, yes. I because I love FCS football. I like watching Montana State, the Big Sky, all that stuff. And I wish more people would pay attention to it. So, is there a small school player other than the one you just talked about that you're really high on also that you
Elijah
want to
Williams out of
highlight?
Morgan. Elijah Williams out of Morgan State, the defensive tackle. I watched this kid break the sack record at Morgan State. I've called probably half of his games in his career because I do a lot of home games for Morgan State. And so I was on the broadcast when he broke the sack record. And this is someone that's a defensive tackle, 6'2", 290, that can play from the 9 technique all the way down to the nose. And there was one game in particular against Norfolk State where it was a crucial part in the game, and he made the play on all 3 downs. Like first down was a TFL, second down was a QB hurry, third down was a sack. It's stuff like that. Then he goes down to the HBCU Legacy Bowl, dominates, and it was crazy in one-on-ones because every time his first rep against a new offensive lineman, the guy ended up on his back, and it was just crazy to see him just dominate consistently through the season at the All-Star game. That's the kind of guy that has the requisite size, test well. I think he's going to get an opportunity to get drafted on day 3.
That's awesome. Like I said, I love the FC. Your FCS rankings are my favorite, and I love that you highlight the smaller schools and the guys that are not getting the love on through national media and on TV as much. Um, so last question. So me and my co-host, we have a what most on Twitter would call a hot take. We've got into it with some fans um, about wide receiver U. Most of people think it's Ohio State. We have the opinion it's actually LSU. Where do you stand on that debate? Like, because I'm starting to see more on Twitter. There's now starting to be a little bit more debate because of neighbors, Chase, Jefferson, those guys from LSU, and Brian Thomas, which nobody talks about as much. Where do you stand on that debate? Is it Ohio State or LSU, in your opinion?
I mean, everyone is always
Yeah,
recency bias, right? But if you talk about, like, if you want to zoom out a little bit, and if you want to
yeah,
add more fuel to Ohio State, you got Chris Carter, you got Galloway, you got Terry Glenn. I mean, you got some dogs over there, right? I mean, historically, you look at Tulsa. Howard
yeah.
Twilley was
Oh
a
yeah,
college football Hall of Famer. Steve Largent, Drew Pearson, like
yeah,
Brennan Marion. Tulsa has some dudes, right? So that's when you're talking to older people like myself. It's
yeah.
I love that perspective because you can look at history and really pick and choose. But I mean, if you're looking at historically, Ohio State versus LSU, it's probably
Yeah.
going to be Ohio State because of those guys that I mentioned. That if we zoomed out a little bit, that they have a little bit more cachet than LSU.
That's true. You brought up a great point on the recency bias. Yes, absolutely. Because and also Malik Neighbors is on my fantasy team, so
Mm,
I got a little love for him. he killed it for me this year. So
nice.
and my co-host, he's an LSU fan, so he may
And
have
again,
another
if you want
bias.
to toss in, you want to toss in Eric Martin, you want to toss in
Yeah,
Eddie Kennison. LSU has some dogs too now,
yeah,
but historically Ohio State a little
yeah.
bit more so than LSU.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Man, I appreciate you coming on here. it's awesome that you did. We're a very small YouTube channel, so it's just cool that you came on here. I don't want to keep you too long. We hit 30 minutes. Could you just tell everybody where they can find you? Because I've been following you for years, and I love your work.
Follow me on Twitter at FBallGamePlan. YouTube.com/football game plan is the YouTube channel that I have. But also pre-order, or not pre-order, it's out now. So just go and get the draft guide, footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. We have scouting reports on over 1,200 players and also over 50 CFL draft prospects as well. So it's the largest, most in-depth draft guides you can find. Full color PDF, so you can have it at your fingertips. And if you purchased my draft guide since 2020, you right now have over 5,400 scouting reports at your disposal. So again, wealth of information, wealth of knowledge, and it's a quick, easy read. All the information that you really care about, that you want to see when your team drafts a guy out there on April.
Awesome. Thank you, Emory. I'm personally going to buy it. We're actually going out of town Friday, so I plan to get it Friday and have something to read while we're out of town. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, man, for joining.
Appreciate you for having me on, man. Good luck with the channel. Thank you again for bringing me on this outlet, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.